Welcome to everyone. This is Alejandro Feige speaking. I'm the ICC Community Manager. I welcome you all to this new edition of ICC webinars. And today we are going to share a new topic, a new webinar on intercultural coaching. Today, Nick Cheong is presenting coaching skills for intercultural coaching. He's ICC trainer from Brazil, although you'll see in a minute that he has a broad international experience and diversity in his life. So this is part of a series of webinars we were delivering on intercultural coaching during the last months, and we invite you also to watch the recordings of previous webinars at the ICC website. I'm going to type on the chat window in a minute the address where you can find the recordings, so if you missed any previous webinar, you can go there and see these and other webinars we have for you. So I want to welcome Nick now and invite you all to enjoy this new webinar. So Nick, welcome. Do you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear, Alejandro. Thank you, Alejandro, and welcome everyone. Well, today's topic is on coaching skills for intercultural coaching, and it's 7 p.m. London time. Here in Brazil, where I'm living, is 5 p.m. So before we go ahead with today's session, please type in very quickly in the chat line, tell me where you are from, and that if you are a coach. So if you say if you are a coach, yes, you are a coach, and tell me where you are from. Okay, I've got a series of answers coming through now. So I hear this all the time where people ask me, can we share the screen where people are chatting? Well, unfortunately, with this webinar, the system does not allow us to share all the chats. So what I'll do is, as far as possible, I will read to everyone the response that you're typing in. And we have Robert from Poland. Robert's a coach. And that we have Ewa from Poland as well. A coach as well, and Esther, she's from Spain, executive coach. Gabi from Toronto, a cross-cultural coach. Welcome, Gabi. And Adriana Mol, hi, you are from Adriani. Yes, I recognize you. You are originally from Mexico and now living in Germany. Nicole Appelbach. She is from Sweden, and she's a coach. Christian, a part-time coach from Denmark. Irene, a coach from Sweden. Ed from Maryland, USA, a coach as well. Ed, I'm just wondering, have I met you in one of the IDI trainings or at the Congress as well? Jose from Portugal. Okay, well, Jose mentioned a coach but not active. Antonio from Brazil, a master coach. Welcome, Antonio. We have a name that I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is Ilva from Sweden, a coach as well. Gabriela from Argentina, she's training to be a coach. Peru, we have from Manuel from Peru. I suppose Manuel is also a coach. Marianne from Kansas in the center of USA, welcome. And Ricardo from Olinda, Brazil. So Ricardo is studying in coaching. Gabriela from Toronto, Gabi, she mentioned that she is a cross-cultural coach. All right, Christian, part-time coach from, yeah, we had that, yes. Kansas. Eva. Oh, okay. Eva from Poland. Right. Thank you, everyone. And Javier from Peru. And yes. I'm trying to recall if through ICF if I've met Marianne. Victoria from Belarus. Wow. Okay. Okay, and Jose from the social area, coaching, training, and Carla from Madrid. Thank you everyone for joining in, and Benjamin from Hong Kong. Ah, okay, a part-time coach. Well, we really have a very international group of audience today. I'm very happy, and one of my one of my dream is to conduct training with an international audience. And obviously, this dream is no longer a dream, but become a reality for the last few months, because every session the room is filled with international participants. I'm very happy because this gives us a wide range of opinions and diversities in opinions. And I think if everyone participates actively, we have a lot to learn from one another, especially in this room. I think today we have a lot of acting coaches, professional coach or coach in training, and cross-cultural coaches as well. So I hope to learn from all of you as well. And Amira from Tunisian. Amira, welcome. So without much ado, let me just go on with the rest of the presentation proper. Right. So why are we here? We are here to understand more on intercultural coaching. What are the skills necessary to conduct intercultural coaching? Right. This is just a broad frame that we are talking about, and that these two questions hopefully help to focus on our discussion today. Why you are here, or rather not a question, but these two statements here, to understand more on intercultural coaching and to know some of the necessary skills to conduct intercultural coaching. And the agenda for today, I'll be talking about some definition real quick on intercultural coaching, and some prerequisites for intercultural coaching. And if you have been following the intercultural coaching webinar series, you would be familiar with some of the framework that I'll be talking today again. And I will refer to the coaching framework real quick, and also intercultural framework that I use in my work, and some case studies here that that is probably very fun, that everyone would think about the situations and then participate as if that you are given a client, and that the client comes to you with this situation. So as I mentioned, the more you participate, the more you will benefit from this session. Okay. Wow, I've still got people coming in with lots of, yeah, okay, the last person that came in, Amara. Okay, welcome. So, and just a quick introduction who I am and where I'm from. I'm the director for intercultural coaching and diversity practice and coaching training for Verandas Consulting. We are a boutique managing consulting firm with roots in Germany. We offer management consulting, intercultural coaching, project management, etc. And we started off in Germany, Stuttgart. Now we have an office in Brazil and in China, Shanghai. So as for me, this is me. So my first degree is in business marketing, and I have a master's program in informatics as well. Currently, I'm preparing for my doctorate in cross-cultural psychology, and that I'm a certified coach and also an international coach trainer for ICC. I have several certifications on cross-cultural training. I'm a cross-cultural trainer using the COI as well as the IDI. I'm a qualified administrator of the IDI, which means Intercultural Development Inventory. I speak several languages: Chinese, Mandarin, that is Mandarin, and Cantonese, English, German, and Portuguese. Now I'm originally from Singapore. I used to live in Germany for 5 years before I moved to Brazil in about 5 years ago. My expertise is in intercultural diversity and expatriate issues. Right, just and I'd like to thank you all the participants who are returning to the webinars, and I'm really happy to see a lot of familiar names coming back to the webinar. And that for those people who are here for the first time, just an overview what has been happening over the last few months. Well, okay, there is a typo error there. Okay. I conducted a workshop on cross-cultural coaching and expatriate coaching in that was in Colombia last year, October 29th, October 2011, not 2012. Yeah. So and thereafter we had a series of webinars from May this year, and that in between in September we had in August we had a session on reframing, and that was a very fun topic for me to do, because I used a number of stories from my own culture to tell some of the reframing exercise. And just recently, we had a webinar session to talk about intercultural framework, the framework that is useful when you want to enter into a coaching session on intercultural coaching issues, right? So if you have missed out some of this, as Alejandro had mentioned, Gabi said, how did I miss all of this? Well, keep in touch on with the ICC website, right? And that Alejandro will send a link to some of the recordings that if you missed, and you can go in and at your own time and pace, listen or watch the webinars. And for your information, this webinar is also recorded for future broadcasting. Okay, and have no fear. The next one coming up is on November the 20th, where I will talk a little bit deeper onto the intercultural competency, using improving intercultural competency through intercultural coaching. That's for the next session. Right. So our first agenda really is to talk about some required skills and prerequisites in intercultural coaching. And of course, there is one slide that is missing here. That is definition of intercultural coaching. And what do you understand by intercultural coaching, and how is it different from regular coaching? And we have all heard about coaching in terms of, you name it, life coaching, business coaching, team coaching, financial coaching, leadership coaching, executive coaching, intercultural coaching, and expatriate coaching. What is this new brand of coaching? I would just like to toss this question out in the open for a while, that you give me some of your feedback, and that I will just give you my point of view about intercultural coaching as well. So at your own pace, please just give me a few one-liner or two about what's your understanding about intercultural coaching. Right, Gabi said to use the most beautiful and complex aspect of our life, culture. Marianne mentioned coaching with an increased awareness of our own and others' culture. Jose mentioned help to balance relationship between people of different origins in face of a common objective. Ilva mentioned in coaching over a cultural barrier, I need to be very aware of my own culture. Marion, no, this should be pronounced as Marian. Yes, takes into account both personal competency to work in international field as well as specific values of culture. You're from Boston. Welcome. Esther mentioned coaching to people who work in intercultural environment, multinational, different country. Yes. So keep those answers coming. so that we have more input, and that Carla mentioned doing coaching for different cultures, nationalities, people that have to make different transition, to make a transition from a country to another with all the consequences. The goal of the client is to do this transition with success for himself, herself, and the family. Benjamin from Hong Kong said, comprehensive approach to coaching people in diversity. Amira said, building a bridge between people from different cultures and help them work successfully together, avoiding misunderstanding and confusion. Robert from Poland, big question is to take cultural differences into account during the session or not. Good question. Do you take cultural differences into account during the session or not? And Victoria, you have to leave now. Okay, no problem. Okay, intercultural coaching. Intercultural coaching, it's relatively new per se, and also feel very exciting because the intercultural arena, this area has started less than, I think in the 1970s. The most prominent research was the one done by Hofstetter, which he was working in IBM, and he started a survey around all the offices for IBM. I think that was in 1978. And that started a whole movement about recognizing how people make decisions and how management styles differ based on culture. And when we look at management terms, like the big word where we say management style, and management style which will be controlling, where time is important, and in different countries, this aspects of work-leisure balance in Mexico, United States, or in Europe, it will vary different. It will be very different from one country to another, and the management style to manage the staff, depending on the country they are from, would varies. So somebody who is from Europe, like a country like Germany, which is very structured, personal time and personal time and family time is very precious, and that on that account, people do not like to mix business with pleasure. Whereas in countries like in the Latino culture, where as well as the Asian culture as well, work life is very closely tied with the professional life, and what you do at work sometimes has an extension over your personal life as well. Your personal life has somehow is an extension of your personal life. So this inevitably has a way to do with you have to change the way you manage your staff, manage the rules, and how things are done at work. So this is just management style. But then intercultural coaching, when you think about coaching in its traditional definition, we have things like your life coaching. Somebody has come to a coach because he wants to establish a goal, and that he wants the coach to help him to achieve this goal within this period of time, or help him to improve his performance. And coaching in a single block, from my perspective, is helping somebody to learn than to teach. And intercultural coaching encompasses that value, that perspective of helping people learn rather than teach, and with an added dimension of culture dimension. And that intercultural coaching, like with like different kinds of coaching, we use the basic framework of coaching, and there's a cultural dimension to it, or rather additional perspective looking at where the coachee is from and where the coachee is working right now. Is the problems that he's facing apart from himself, or could also be from the environment culturally speaking, where he's operating that has a clash, or that is not helping him to perform or making him feel frustrated in the situation. And so that's really quite a big definition of how this intercultural coaching is, because intercultural coaching will then later on, we can look at it into intercultural coaching as well as expatriate coaching, where you have an expatriate, somebody who's posted overseas, and very specifically refer to this expatriate that he accompany, engage the coach just to help this foreign executive to integrate and to perform in a different environment setting. So, and when we come back to this slide here about skills and prerequisites in intercultural coaching, so what is important here, I have mentioned this several times in other webinars, are these key, for me, these 7 key aspects. First and foremost is the coach level of coaching skills. This has to be fundamental in the intercultural coaching session, where we are integrating 2 concepts together, coaching and the intercultural issues, interculturalists. Traditionally, intercultural coach, intercultural training prepares the executive before they go into a different culture setting. And when you integrate these 2 and do intercultural coaching, the first and foremost requisite, of course, is your fundamental coaching skills. And the coaching skills, in the later slides, I will talk a little bit more about the framework, which I'm sure all of you here, most of you would be very familiar with. And secondly, this strong ethics from the coach. This, of course, many of you would say, oh, this is a given fact. What makes a coach if he has no ethics, have no good ethics? Well, this is something that I want to stress, because in intercultural coaching, especially when you are brought in to coach an expatriate, most of the time, compared to executive coaching, intercultural coaching or expatriate coaching for a high-level expatriate, you are brought in to solve an emergency situation, something that is uncomfortable or something that the expatriate is unable to solve on his own. And that because the network for the expatriate is, well, the fact of the matter is, when you are posted overseas, you have to face with the fact that you are away from your home, you have no friends to talk to, your familiar network is not there. So if the coach has does not observe a strong ethics and keep the confidentiality, especially confidentiality in this aspect is very important, that if in a session some issues, delicate issues are being discussed, and the coach needs to abide by the code of ethics, that is confidentiality, and not pass the words around, so that could be the HR department or his boss or whatever. And any form of information that you relate upwards or downwards or anyone else, you need to be clear that to have the permission from the coachee. And of course, this also means, from the coaching point of view, a coach needs to be coached as well, because face it, how many secrets can one person hold, right? So we are all human, like all therapists. They have to go through therapy themselves, because if you are solving people's problem, who's going to solve your problem as well? So this has to do with us being human as well. So to stop us or to prevent us from leaking confidential, to leaking secrets, or being unaware of sometimes what you say to your friends or whatever, it's good that a coach, you have your own coach as well. And I mentioned this about trust in this intercultural coaching, because most of the time when intercultural coaching is involved, you are probably the only person that the coachee is able to tell all the problems, all the issues and challenges that he's facing in a foreign country, and that you're probably the only professional listener around who is able to analyze and help him organize his thoughts. And of course, foreign language skills, because if you are brought in to coach somebody who's not able to speak the local language, able to speak the coachee's language is a big plus. Unless, of course, the coachee is comfortable to speak the common language that we are talking about. In most cases that I've dealt with, it's English that we start with, and that I have clients that are from Germany. I mean, I speak German, but of course, to be really comfortable and to talk about issues, we end up talking in English anyway. And back and forth, the coachee might use some expressions in his local language. And even though the whole session might not be conducted in just one language, the coachee might sometimes be more comfortable choosing to express himself or herself in her own local tongue. And that is a big plus if the coach is able to understand those expressions in the coachee's native language. And cultural competency and intercultural knowledge of the coach. And this is where I think I stressed the last time. If the coach is not developed interculturally, how does he help the coachee to uncover some of the deeper meaning of culture? So it is important, if you are embarking into the intercultural arena as a coach, that you need to continue learning about all the most the development work going on in intercultural issue as well as coaching. And intercultural arena, there is still a relatively new topic, but there are a lot of studies and research on this area already. And that even though sometimes I've spoken with many diplomats and people who work in the embassy, these are the people I think who tend to overestimate their level of intercultural competency. They might have been traveling to over 20 countries, 10 countries, whatnot, but each experience is new. And when they come to a country like Brazil, with a very modern and sophisticated outlook, they are shocked to realize that, hey, they are different after all. How so? And because they always thought that, oh yeah, I've been to India, I've been to Asia, and I've been to Egypt, where the communication patterns and culture is so much more different for me. And they make the assumption that, hey, here in Brazil, they all look kind of European, and that I have worked in Europe, or I'm from the States. We are very similar in that aspect. Yes, but that's, I think, one of the danger. And of course, a big plus would be if you have overseas experience or you're constantly working with foreigners. And the last part, empathy and listening, I think this is one of the core skills in coaching anyway. So, but I put it there, I put it here because I think this is one skill that in intercultural coaching, we sometimes have to switch between as a good listener and give empathy and support, and at the same time apply our coaching skills to help the coachee reflect and how to do things differently. And as I've been talking so much, there have been quite a number of questions coming to me now. Edward mentioned you don't get the difference between intercultural and expatriate coaching. Right. I did not define that so clearly here. Intercultural coaching has to do with, it's like your business coaching and your executive coaching. And in business coaching, sometimes you can have a group, but your expatriate coaching is more one-to-one, and that your executive is always most of the time a foreigner, not from the local country. Well, for intercultural coaching, you could be coaching somebody from the local from the country that he's living, but he has to deal with a foreign boss, or have to handle an international team, for example, that he has to understand all these subtleties and differences in culture. So there's this subtle differences between when you talk about just the intercultural coaching. So you could see that you could see as expatriate coaching is a subset of intercultural coaching, a more specialized form of intercultural coaching, where the coachee is definitely not and not somebody from the country that you're coaching. Okay. And I have another question here, which seems Javier mentioned, no, Antonio asked first. Antonio asked, I would like to know if there's a formal ethics, code of ethics for coach. Yes, there is. We have a formal code of ethics for ICC coaches, and that thing you can download from the ICC website. Javier asked, could we talk about intercultural coaching inside company organization? In my experience, I found different cultures in the same country. Yep. And that's the subculture. And this question that Javier mentioned, when you talk about culture differences and intercultural differences, this slide will be useful now. When you look at what defines or what are the dimensions and aspects of culture, culture is such a wonderful and complex topic. It has about, well, in one of the books that I like to refer to all the time is they have defined these 10 categories that give a very good summary of that encompasses most, if not for me, all the area where culture is involved. And these are like the sense of self and space, the communication pattern and languages, how you dress yourself, your appearance, and the food and feeding habits, time and time consciousness, relationship between human and its groups. So this is the part where I think, JV, you said relationship between human and its group is not just between person to person, but from department to department. Sometimes you have different culture as well. And below you have values and norms, beliefs and attitudes, mental process and learning. And this part, mental process and learning, is something which is totally invisible. And if you imagine culture as the famous iceberg model, what we see on top of an iceberg is what we only see that's floating above the sea level, which is your communication pattern, how he's obviously speaking a different language that I'm speaking, he or she dressed differently, and that we say 10 o'clock and people start coming in at 10:10, you know, so time and time consciousness. This is something that you can observe very quickly. But things like mental process and learning process is something that is so deep down in the cultural programming that most of the time people themselves are not aware about how they process their mental thoughts, how they learn. Some people like to be more hands-on. Some culture likes to give more theory before they do on the hands-on. And typically, correct me if I'm wrong, our participant from USA, in school, in the States, students are from young has been encouraged to try, and after trying, then the teacher will talk about a specific general theory or pattern so that the students can relate to the theory. And sometimes this way of learning frustrates a lot of Asian students, because in Asia, we don't like to try something without knowing what's the outcome. And that we want to be told beforehand what is expected, because otherwise, what are we doing here? So we like the teacher to tell us, okay, this is the concept, and then we go on to do the experiment. Then we go on to the hands-on. Otherwise, from our own cultural programming, it is very, very frustrating for us to learn something because it's not something that we're used to. And I think from a lot of studies for overseas graduates, whether undergraduates or postgraduates, students from Asia, when they study in the States, this is one of the top frustration that they experience, is that I have no framework. The professor, the lecturer just tells us to do this, and then everybody else starts doing it. But Asian students have this resistance to do something without knowing what's the outcome. And this had to do with our pattern of learning, because from young, if you are programmed to do and learn in a certain way, then it's very difficult for you to adjust unless you are aware what you're going through. But half the time, we don't know because things just happen. And this is very important when we are giving a coaching session to somebody who is not aware of their own thinking pattern, to make them be aware of such pattern. And lastly, work habits and practices. I think this is the easiest part, where in Japan, you know, the boss is always the last to leave the office. And that in Europe, particularly in Germany, well, it's 8, everyone's expected to be there before 8, and by 5, if it's time to go home, everybody just leaves. There's no rule to say that the boss needs to wait for the last person to leave before he can leave. Well, I had a few Japanese boss, and that even though back then I was in Singapore, my bosses were Japanese. They felt embarrassed to leave before I leave, even though it's like 8:30 in the evening. So these are some of the practices and work habits that you can observe this, but then unless somebody tells you back home where they come from, how it's being done, there's this aha effect, you know, say, now I understand why. So these are some of the categories. I shall not go into too much detail because I think this itself is valuable to talk about for a good 1 hour. And if I summarize these 10 categories, that you could always see a trend. The danger of a lack of cultural competency, or rather understanding of differences in culture, is that you assume everyone is the same. And this assumption will often end up offending people of another culture and cause conflict. And of course, you lose out on opportunities by using talents of another country. Basically, this whole idea about diversity. Well, diversity is good, but you need to use diversity to have an inclusion process. How to include diversity in your company, or use those diversity to your advantage in the organization. And intercultural coaching is one of the tools to help companies in inclusion process. All right. And now I'm just running through if there's some question coming through. Yeah, there is a question from Benjamin. It is the cultural difference between East and the West fundamental. Yes, I think, Benjamin, you are referring to the learning patterns. And Benjamin also mentioned, nevertheless, it is gradually changing in Asia among young generation, learning bravely from the West. Yes, I totally agree with Benjamin. From the baby boomers to the MTV generation to Generation X, and now Generation Y, and then soon there will be Generation Z, where people, I mean, kids nowadays, they start using iPad and touchscreen and whatnot at the age of 2. When I was 2, I don't even have any consciousness of what's going on around me. So things are really changing very, very quickly from generation to generation. Amira asked a question, what do I mean by learning pattern? Well, learning pattern is what I mentioned. Do you prefer to learn something first from knowing the theory, or do you prefer to learn something by doing? So, and that's I mean, it might sound very mundane now, but if you think back in your formation years, what do you normally do before you go into an experiment, or before you conduct any research or whatever? Do you just go ahead and try it out first and then go read up on the theories that support your findings? Or do you do the reverse process? Do you read about the theory first and then try to prove a certain theory? So these are two fundamentally very different way of learning that is sometimes so unconscious, and that it can frustrate a team in the international project team, because if the thinking process and learning process is very different, it will define who has a louder voice, will define how the team will approach a problem. Benjamin mentioned about Apple and Samsung is contributing to such a change. Yeah, that's right. The use of the equipments now. Eva mentioned, could you say some more words on assume everyone is the same? I don't get the meaning. Right. For example, Eva, where are you from? You said you are from, let me see, Poland, right? So in Poland, sorry, you're from Sweden. In Sweden, what do you expect? What do you think when your staff give you a gift? For example, I have a situation that someone relate to me, which I find it totally funny, at the same time full of insight. Somebody was, an Asian lady was interviewed for a job in in Norway, and that eventually she was offered the position, and then and she started working. And the first day when she started working, she offered her boss a very nice wine. You know, she said, "This is my appreciation for you employing me," and this is her way of expressing gratitude, of being able to work for the company. And we're talking about very big MNC, a petroleum exploration company. But this executive was totally shocked. She felt that, what is this? Is she trying to bribe me, or what is this? No, and she's doing this out in the open. And if she accepts this, what would other colleagues think of her? Because this obviously, when she told me, this is totally uncommon. You don't thank somebody for offering the job, not like this as a gift for just the boss. So this is what I said by assuming somebody is the same. So in this case, the Asian employee showed her way of gratitude back home, how she would show her gratitude by buying somebody a food, something to eat, or something to share with the rest of the colleagues as a show of appreciation. But in Norway, such behavior would have been seen as bribery or something to ask for favors. So the Asian colleague employee has thought that, well, her boss probably might think the same way that she is thinking. So in this case, she did not understand that, well, by assuming that everybody is the same, obviously it's not the same. When you assume that everybody thinks the same way as you do, then that you need to question your assumption. Yeah. Okay. So coming back to this slide, right? Time check. I'm 15 minutes to 6, and I have a case study to go through with you. So the problems related to culture could be the following. You have your culture shock, you have your re-entry shock, which is basically after living in a country for several years, and then you are, whether by choice or by force, you have to go back to the country of origin. The shock of going back to a country sometimes, if most of the time, is harder than the entry culture shock. And these are some of the related problems to culture. And in any intercultural coaching session, the coachee is very likely to talk about all these issues and challenges, those judgments he made about a situation, those generalizations they made of the situation how they approach it, and the outcome is somewhat different from what they expected, especially how they would expect from where they come from and in the new country. Well, and that's where intercultural coaching comes in. We question and challenge those assumptions that our clients have on what used to work back home. Why should it work here? Does it have a basis to work here? Are we fundamentally the same? Or have the assumption changed? And the elements of coaching, basically, when you go through this intercultural coaching, is to go through all this favorite words, build awareness by asking, getting them to be accountable, and follow through with an action. Well, action is still very important in intercultural coaching, just like a regular coaching session, because if the coachee comes in and leaves the session feeling understanding the issue, but do not have any action item to work with, we're missing something here, which is the most powerful part of coaching, which is the action. And intercultural coaching helps all these areas here, which we talked about, trainers and HR people and executives who are posted different countries. I think one of the challenges for this century is human resource management. When they move people around, how do they consider international executives nowadays? The likelihood of a board member to be selected will be based on some form of international exposure that he has in his earlier years, or that he has some form of evidence that he's able to lead an international team. Because after all, in the global environment, if the company is truly global, you're not only dealing with one country, but you're dealing with multiple countries here. And it's important that the selection criteria of the next person in the board to be prepared of this. Jose asked a question: should I prepare a new skill folder in HR department? How? Well, probably yeah, because this is something about intercultural competency to highlight, because most of the time intercultural competency is an afterthought for leaders. We talked about management style, we talked about decision-making process and everything, but the cultural aspect is normally not talked about. So these are some of the risks that I've been talking about having with working with different cultures, the risk of misunderstanding, conflict, mistrust, and stress, anger, sadness. And the use of intercultural coaching helps to improve all that, change disruptive behavior, and make use of potential of diversity in the team, and helps build a truly international business team. And if we put these two frameworks together, the coaching framework, as I call it, framework is really quite a big word. We have some process, and depending on how you are trained as a coach, you definitely go through one of these, all these 7 points: listening, how to develop listening skills, asking powerful questions, identifying limiting beliefs, and changing the limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs, using your intuition, setting goals, leverage points, and maximizing change in action. And how do we interact the two dimensions together with knowing some of the cultural dimensions on the left. Right. Let's look at the next slide now. This is a framework that I use for my own intercultural coaching. It's a framework based on Milton Bennett's model, intercultural that measures that talks about intercultural sensitivity and maturity. And we don't have much time. The last session I devoted, I think, more than 40 minutes just to talk about this model. This model is interesting because it's very simple. You can help your client, or you yourself can see, denial means a person who does not see differences, or does not see differences in cultures at all because, well, he doesn't know there is a difference between culture to begin with. And when he starts to realize that, hey, there is a difference in culture, and he will go into a stage called polarization, where it can be, where he feels that his culture is more superior than the other, or if he has spent some time abroad and come back home, he realized that other culture is more superior than his own culture, that we call reversal. And the midpoint is called minimization, where they start to identify and recognize that there are not only differences, but they start to focus on the similarity between human beings and culture. And that's where the turning point for a monocultural mindset to intercultural mindset to become into acceptance and adaptation. Right. Oh, Mario mentioned, can I show the former slide? Okay. This slide here. Right. If you missed out this one, you can always go back to the recording and come back to the slide again, all right? Because I think with my with my German mindset in mind, I'm very conscious of the time to end on time as well. And I would really like to know your response to this question, my favorite scientist. What does a fish know about water in which he swims all his life? Do you think that the fish knows that he's in water? Well, no, unless it is out of water. So basically, culture is like what water does to a fish. If we are constantly in the same culture, we are not naturally. It is not our natural tendency to question about our principle and philosophy, unless that we encounter somebody who's totally different from us, or have a different mindset, different perspective, in this case culturally speaking. And then we start to realize that, hey, he's different. How is he different? Well, yeah, he talks in a different fashion, his pronunciation is different, and the way he approaches and explains issues are also different. And this is when you start to realize that, hey, because you are used to this way of thinking, this way of talking, and this is how your culture works, this is how you used to do it back home. And this is what culture does to us, the cultural programming. And just as a metaphor, culture is like, if you use our modern technology term, computer hardware. So what makes an Apple really an Apple computer? Is it really the hardware today? Is it the fancy design? Yeah. The outlook is different. It has a very appealing design. But if you look into the hardware itself, Apple itself are using Intel chips now, or they're also trying out other forms of more popular chips. So what's the difference really is the software. And culture is exactly what it does to us, because if we think of this metaphor, if we compare one human being from another, I'm born in Singapore, and that you are born in USA, in Sweden, Poland, India, Hong Kong. What makes us different? Well, is our upbringing, our culture, the way we've been living our lives, how we approach things, because genetically our DNA are the same, just like the hardware. And culture is like the software that drive how we think, how we approach problems and issues and challenges. And I would like you to look at this. Well, I have three. I think one of the most, let me use this example, I think, which is more colorful, which has a picture here. Right. Some of you might have come across this case before. That is Google started a project with Amazon, and that he invited one of the chiefs from the Amazon in Brazil to stay with them all the way in the States in Silicon Valley, so that Google can start use its technology to help to track their heritage and deforestation in the Amazon forest, how the Google map can help to for the indigenous tribe to really start preserving its own culture with a more systematic and structural approach. So some time back, this was in June this year, that Chief Ilmer, he approached Google 5 years ago, and that he wants Google to help them to build a map, or to map out how the Amazon is being affected by deforestation, and how their culture is being affected by the changes around them. So, and imagine that you are the project leader for Google, and that and Chief Emir is going to come and live with you and work with you for 18 months, and prepare him when he goes back to Amazon to use all the skills and technology and pass this knowledge to his people. And bearing in mind that Chief Emir, who was born and lived in Amazon all his life, and it's the first time he's traveling out of the Amazon forest, and definitely first time that he's traveling out of his country. So this would be a very, I think, a total culture shock experience. I could imagine that first language, and even from the mere fact that in Amazon they probably they don't wear tie, they don't wear pants, they don't wear jacket, you know. And this is definitely a very good example. And that, imagine if you are the coach that been engaged for this process of helping Chief Emir to learn as much as possible for these 18 months. And in the first session of the coaching session, the chief expressed that he's frustrated with the people in US. They keep telling him what to do, what he should do, what he should not do. And sometimes he's also frustrated because information is not given unless he specifically asks for it, and that sometimes meeting and training ends on time, or end even before he's able to understand everything. How would you coach Chief Emir? So I would like everyone to participate in this coaching exercise. Imagine that you are the intercultural coach. What would be the approach that you would take, and most importantly, what would be the questions that you would ask the chief? Right. So take the next few, the next 45 seconds to think about, first of all, digest the information and start typing in your questions, how you would coach the chief. Right. So the baseline here is that he's frustrated about what? Well, he tells you a few clues that people keep telling what to do, what not to do, what he should do, what he should not do. And he felt, probably in this case, if you read between the lines, he feels frustrated because people are what? Yes, I see some question coming through now. So I'm going to give you a bit next another 25 seconds or so just to finish off your thinking process and putting them into words. Bear in mind there is no right or wrong answer, but it's an exercise for you to start thinking about a situation that if you sit down with this client and the first thing he start babbling to you and start talking to you non-stop is to tell the frustration. Oh, these people that I'm working with right now, they're like this, they're like that, and that this is why they keep telling me what to do and that why I should do da, 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 da. So what would be a good start? What would be the good question to start the coaching session? Good. Keep the question coming in, and I will start reviewing some of the answers that some of you have started writing in now. And of course, those practicing cross-cultural coaches, it will be really useful that you would share your experience here too as well to tell the rest of the participants what you think as well. Okay, I will start reading off the answers one by one. Okay, Benjamin said he liked this case and that mutual trust and respect in diversity is indispensable. Adriana said, the question by Adriana, what are you interested in? What do you want? Strong question there. What would Chief Amir need coaching for? What is his goal to settle down in America, to work there, to live there? Robert, that's Poland, Robert from Poland. Well, the Chief's Amir's objective is to stay in the States for 18 months so that after the 18 months of training, to know the technology that Google has to offer is to bring this back to his people so that he can help to preserve the culture and also to start tracking the deforestation process in the Amazon forest as well. Basically to use the Google's technology to preserve his own culture in the Amazon forest. So he's not there to settle down in America. He's the chief of a tribe in Amazon, and that rightfully he wants to go back to his people. He has no interest to live there on the long term in America. So Marilyn mentioned what would be most useful for you at this time. And Carla mentioned what legacy you would like to leave on Earth. Yes, this is questioning his values here. Adrienne mentioned how can they help you? Good. Marilyn mentioned again how would you handle this in your own culture? Andrea mentioned I'll ask what he wants to learn. What's more important for you? Do you want to share with others about your feelings? Okay. Ilva mentioned I would first ask him to give his view on the people and how they are living, and then I would ask him what he believes the people think about his lifestyle and what he knows and knows not. Jose said that if if it were you, what would you do it? Or rather, maybe you mean by if it were you, how would you do it? Adrian mentioned again, have you told them what you do not like? Marion mentioned, I would like to know his outcomes first and ask him what kind of better version of himself he would like to do be in X number of months' time. Once we have the aspirational goal, we will work on those behaviors which need to change. I will work from where he is to where he wants to be, asking how would you like to interrelate with Americans, and what do you need to do differently? How can we make that happen? Yes, there's a series of very powerful questions there. Elsa mentioned, how would you like to receive the information? Okay. And I think, Elsa, you are referring to the trainings, right? And they mentioned, what is missing to your integration? Irene asked, first of all, I will listen, and how would he want it to be? Okay. I would first listen and understand how he want it to be. Yeah. I do apologize for pronouncing your names incorrectly sometimes. Okay. Marilyn mentioned, what would you learn about the U.S. culture that will inform your decision about the next steps? Andrea mentioned, are you loving this experience? Joachim said, how would you like to be treated? Robert said, to start is to get out with him outside for him to feel better. Okay. Marion said, how do you interpret their advice? What do you think they mean? Andrea, what are you learning here? If it were you, how would you do it? Jose. Adriana mentioned, how would you feel? How would you like to feel? What do you need? Robert asked, to help him change his feeling first. How is it that you find difficult to assimilate? Asked Elsa. Carla asked, first of all, asking him what would he like to get from the tool and what he expects from the tool. Carla from Panama. Joachim, how do you think they view you? Yes. Eva mentioned, what do you think is lacking in your communication? What are the benefits about this experience, Andrea asked. And seems like I have 5 more responses here, so I'll just quickly run through them. Benjamin asked, no, sorry, before that is Johan. Well, Johan, I didn't see your name earlier on. I don't know where you're from. What have you done to inform the US guys about how to communicate? Yes. Benjamin asked, what do you really want and what are you looking for in this journey? Carla asked again, how do you want to be remembered by your people? Elva asked, how do you express what you need to understand? Irene asked, how does he want it to be? What is the most important issue to you? Ewa said, how would you treat people coming to your country to work with you? Esther, what a pity I have to go. Oh, Esther, we'll miss you. Yes, Esther, listen to the to the recording then. Johan is from Sweden. Right. Thank you for all this wonderful reply, and that many of this reply, if not all of them, are valid in certain part of time to help the chief to integrate. First of all, from my perspective, if I'm faced with this client, first of all, is to understand where his frustration is coming from. He obviously feels that frustrated that people are telling him what to do. Well, I think some of you have asked that question. How would you like people to tell? How would you like people to communicate with you? How is it? How is it different back home? How would people talk to you differently back home. So if you toss a question like that to make him reflect about how different is it from the States and from back home, then you will hear a lot of things coming out from the cultural value side. In terms of, first of all, he will start, probably, my guess is that you will hear a lot of issues about hierarchy. He being the chief of a tribe, normally, hardly anybody tells him what to do. He would be the person telling people what to do and what not to do. So in this a culture where he comes from, where hierarchy is not equal, there is inequality in hierarchy communication. There is then this conflict of culture there, and that you need to toss some question around to question about the communication style in hierarchy, how he would like to what is the form, preferred way that he like to be talked to back home. Then you will hear a lot of values coming off from his answers, and information is not given unless he specifically asks for it. And this is probably one of those frustrations when Asians start working in the States, and also in Europe, in particular, like in Germany, is that in Asian countries where we come from a very high context communication, we give information so that the other party will interpret the information. Whereas in a culture where it's low context, you are extremely direct with the information. You tell people exactly this is for this and this only, and you censor, or I wouldn't use the word censor. Let me take it back. You would choose to just give information based on your judgment that he needs this information for this purpose now. You will not leave things for him to interpret. So you will not tell him probably a whole lot of history about what's the background and before driving on. And these are some of the communication conflicts that between the East and West have very often. Is that the East, we like to know a lot more background information, so that it helps us to have a better view of what's going on, and help us to decide for our own. Well, in the West, you give information based on as needed basis. And of course, the last part about training and on time, even though he have not understand everything. Well, this is basically about time consciousness. And I know our participants from the States probably are now looking at their watch now. It's 15 minutes past the hour, and that Nick is still babbling on, and that, well, oof, this guy probably, I'm not sure if I will join his training the next time. See, all these are judgment calls based on your own cultural settings. So in the States, where training needs to start on time and end on time, well, in other culture, it's more important with the relationship. So the last statement there is directed into the relationship. What is he more concerned with, the task or the relationship? So from there, you will be able to formulate questions about, what is more important for him when you ask him to interpret what does it mean for him when trainings end on time, even though he has not understand completely. Does the people know that he have not comprehend everything even though they finish on time? All this would be those probing questions that you need to ask to get a better view of where he's coming from and where he's going. And there's a lot of valid questions that all the participants have tossed, has chatted in, and it's been a wonderful experience to be able to share this exchange of experience and exchange of ideas and opinions with everyone. My time, of course, is more than up. I'm late by 15 minutes. And I hope with this next statement, I would like you to think about is you cannot know your own culture until you know another. And it's something that I would like all of you who are now thinking about embarking or already working on intercultural, cross-cultural coaching is that be conscious about your own thinking process, because not all of us think alike. Because, but then again, how do we know we do? What are the differences in our thinking patterns? And this is the art whereby you need to uncover about the communication styles. And I think I would use the next webinar session, which is scheduled on the 20th of November, to talk a little bit more about these frameworks, the intercultural frameworks that you can use so that you can ask more specifically in intercultural coaching sessions on time consciousness, on communication style like direct communication, indirect communication, high contact, low contacts, and all those concepts that interculturalists has been advocating for the last 30, 40 years. So so thank you everyone for your time. And before you leave, I would like to hear from you just one quick feedback. What would be one word or quick phrase that you would describe your experience for this webinar session with me? So just a quick feedback so that I know how this the last 1 hour and 15 minutes has been for you. Benjamin sent me a chat which is really interesting, that are you referring to the assumption that Chip Amir to be framed as Asian? Well, I did not frame him as Asian, but rather in intercultural framework term, we have different communication style, like what I mentioned, high context and low context, whether somebody like to be treated in the hierarchy form or like to be treated equally. And that is a in tribal and in the Brazilian general culture point of view, they are generally indirect and they respect hierarchy. That's very, very similar to Asian in that context. But if you line up an Asian and a Brazilian in terms of indirect or being indirect, so from 1 to 10, the Japanese would say on indirect or being indirect and being hierarchy, he will rank on 10, whereas Brazilian probably will rank on 7.5. So that's what I mean. That it's similar, but not exactly the same exactly. But if we use those frameworks to analyze the situation, then we help the client to take away the emotions out of the situations as well. Okay, so yeah, keep those feedback coming in. You can write your feedback in just one word. What would you describe in one word this session for you? Or a simple sentence would be useful for me as a quick feedback. Benjamin said insightful and thought-provoking. Irene said differences. Mario mentioned interesting structured approach to human dilemma by using cross-cultural framework. Thank you. Andrea said I have other about the same issue. I have in other about the same issue. Okay, you have seen the similar situation. Ewa, repetition of the past few webinars. Sorry to say so. Yes, there are some repetitions here and there, and that Marilyn mentioned this is good for those needing an introduction. Look forward to more advanced discussion. Yes, interesting and useful not only for an international experience. Javier from Peru. Joaquin, interesting with the case towards the end. Include more time, yes. Andrea mentioned, I think, more and better about cross-cultural, intercultural coaching. Benjamin, I'm working in a Japanese shipping company, so you would relate a lot about the Japanese communication style. Gabi mentioned enriching. Gabriella, great introduction. Irene, different learning abilities, different ways to express ourselves. Carla, thanks, and thank you for sharing. Thank you. Eva, definitions are very helpful. Adriana mentioned you would like more information about practical example. Robert, it is worth thinking about more interaction with participants, not only chat. Good point. We will take that into account. We do have a different resource called Forum, but that's for our more advanced participant where we don't have a group. Probably Alejandro can give a 2 words, 30 seconds intro on that. Okay. Yeah, and very soon. Very soon, I would be offering this into a more advanced discussion about intercultural coaching, whereby I would like to give more time, dedicate more time into each session, about 2 hours. But tune in more often to the ICC website to know more about this, where you will find out when this will be offered on the ICC platform. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. And it's been wonderful for your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you again on the 20th of November.
Nick, many thanks, and many thanks to all for being there. Again, see you in the next one, and follow the ICC website, as Nick said, to join us to this and other webinars also. Have a good week, and take care. Until the next one. Bye.